Very warm welcome to Amishakil 5858. I am Amir Shackle. Following are the latest news headlines which have been reported by American, European, Canadian, Asian, African, and Australian news channels and all other news agencies. So please, let's go to the news.
Tonight, the battle over deportation. The president of El Salvador refusing to release a Maryland father sent to that notorious prison, despite the Supreme Court ordering the Trump administration to facilitate his return. The White House now arguing his deportation was not a mistake. Plus, another Columbia University student detained. Meanwhile, Harvard University rejecting the Trump administration's demands amid threats to cut funding. The man accused of torching the home of Pennsylvania Governor Shapiro arraigned the striking new images of the damage inside his home. Plus, what we're learning about the suspect's online behavior. Also, the man arrested at United Healthcare's headquarters months after the CEO was killed. What we're learning, the mounting confusion over what's next in the president's trade war.
I'm a very flexible person. I don't change my mind, but I'm flexible.
Will smartphones and other electronics be exempt? The chopper company behind the fatal crash in the Hudson River closed as more questions arise about the safety of air tours. The FDA warning about a counterfeit version of the popular weight loss drug Ozempic, what you may need to check to stay safe. And the good news, will introduce you to the all-female star-studded crew that launched into space and the history books today.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt. Your dream school abroad is closer than you think with the Duolingo English test.
Tonight there is breaking news just as we come on the air. The suspect in court right now accused of firebombing the Pennsylvania governor's home with the family inside, unleashing a massive fire. Parts of the home up in flames. Tonight he's now facing attempted murder charges and terrorism charges as well. The governor and his family sleeping upstairs, part of the dining room destroyed. Authorities say there was one door that was secured that made the difference. And what we've learned tonight about the suspect, what he planned to do if he found Governor Shapiro. Also breaking tonight, the images coming in, the earthquake in California striking San Diego. The warnings in Los Angeles, the cell phone warning that went out moments before. Tonight, the immigration standoff over a Maryland man, a husband and father wrongly sent to a prison in El Salvador. The U.S. Supreme Court ruling the U.S. must facilitate his return. But today, President Trump and the president of El Salvador in the Oval Office. El Salvador's president, when asked if they'll return the man, he said that's a preposterous question. President Trump's tariff whiplash, exempting iPhones, computers, and many high-tech items now, only to now say that's just temporary, and that those tariffs will soon return in a new bucket, saying tariffs on pharmaceuticals are coming too. And where President Xi of China is tonight. The tragic plane crash at a field in upstate New York, killing a former NCAA Woman of the Year, her parents, her brother, and 2 others also killed. History made tonight, the star-studded all-female Blue Origin flight crew, including Katy Perry and Gayle King, blasting off, headed to the edge of space, Oprah crying at liftoff. And then the parachutes bringing the capsule down for a gentle landing. And what the passenger said right afterward, you'll hear it. Tonight, the remarkable rescue here, the woman clinging to the side of a cliff for more than an hour, a rescuer dropping from a helicopter in an effort to save her. And golfer Rory McIlroy's emotional win at the Masters, his 17th try. And tonight, you'll hear the message to his 4-year-old daughter.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York.
Former counselor to President Trump and Fox News contributor Kellyanne Conway. How you doing, Kellyanne?
Never better. How are you, Jesse?
I'm great. Bill Maher, happy to be at the White House. Gretchen Whitmer, not so much.
That's actually my favorite picture of all time of Gretchen Whitmer.
What is it that you like about it so much?
I like that we can't see her. And if she puts it on a bumper sticker and makes it a campaign platform, I think that she can catch Tim Walz for 4th place in that early Democratic primary poll. It's the Oval Office to think that we're not going to know who that is. It's like when your neighbor goes on with the glasses and the mustache, we're not supposed to know it's him. Pete Buttigieg with his beard, I think, is doing his best. Vladimir Zelensky, hoping more Democrats will support him if they think he's the president of Ukraine. There he is.
Look at him. He's got a Zelensky look to him. What about Booker out there hugging they-them? So that's a move.
And after the 24, 40 hours, whatever he did, he talked all that time and said absolutely nothing. He couldn't answer Kristen Welker's very important question. Back to Pete Buttigieg for a second. Here's a guy like Beto O'Rourke before him. They're the next generation, fresh blood, new face. They're on skateboards. They speak. Pete Buttigieg speaks 8 languages, none of which makes sense to most Americans. But I think it tells you what's wrong with the Democratic Party right now. very quickly, AOC, not AOK, Bernie burned by his party. And I think the two of them together reminds people that the party, whether it's the old guard or the newer people, they're just not fresh and new anymore. I find their act to be very boring. Stephen A. Smith is intriguing to me.
Me too.
Because Obama was an outsider. Donald Trump certainly was a political outsider. And at this point, 10 years ago, Jesse, in April of 2015, Trump was mired in single digits in all the early primary polls. And people said, what? You can't win. You're not, quote, electable. Electability, the lack of electability is going to haunt Stephen A. Smith, but it's a gift to him. Because the moment people say you can't win, voters say, I don't care who can win. I care who can lead.
That's right.
And
it's really about leadership.
Outsider.
And if he just goes on the debate stage and just slams these guys right to their face, it'll be so fun to watch. Now,
plus,
also,
his name is Stephen A. Smith. Some Democrats are going to think that he's a white guy insurance agent from Des Moines, and then when they see him, they're going to be like, bonus.
That's a definite surprise. Big surprise tomorrow. Joe Biden is leaving Delaware. He's flying to Chicago. He's getting paid for a speech. I think it's a group that represents disabled people. And we're getting word from Chris Whipple, this author of Uncharted, this tell-all book. Biden is angry at all of his advisors for just spilling all the beans and talking trash about him to all of these authors.
You mean still, because they did that while he was president. Look, I don't blame him. They covered for him again and again, made it seem to him that nothing was wrong with him. And now, after they lied to America for years, want to clear their consciences. Look, the political consulting class on both sides of the aisle is very small. It's a very elite group. Some of them should never work in that town again, in that industry, because you got to be truthful and transparent with the American people about who your candidate is. Joe Biden gave us 4 years of him for free. Very few people listen. We'll see what a paid speech does.
Okay, I'm not expecting a lot, but it should be fun. Good to see you.
Great to see you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe.
On this Monday night from Calgary, separation anxiety. Why an increasing number of Albertans want to break up with Canada.
We're not separating from Canada. Canada separated from us.
How Alberta's premier is responding and the pressure she faces. The push for Canada to be more energy independent.
We're tied so closely to the U.S.
The changes industry leaders are calling for. Campaign pledges the Liberals' ambitious plan to fix Canada's dysfunctional defence procurement process. And the unprecedented legal steps the Conservatives want to take to punish mass murderers.
Global National with Don Friesen, reporting tonight from Calgary.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. We are in Calgary with 2 weeks to go until the federal election. Alberta is diehard conservative country and many voters can't stomach how the Liberals have risen in popularity under leader Mark Carney. Until 2015, a Liberal MP had not been elected in Calgary since 1968. In the last federal election, Alberta was a sea of blue again, except for 4 seats in Edmonton and Calgary, 2 Liberal and 2 NDP. This time, pollsters sense the Liberals could make gains in a handful of urban Alberta ridings that could be tight contests between the Liberals and Conservatives. The overarching ballot here, what's motivating voters, is largely believed to be the same as the rest of the country.
Most people that you talk to, if you force them to choose what their most important issue is, might say either affordability or how to handle Donald Trump. But most folks recognize that those 2 issues are tightly intertwined.
But something else has resurfaced in Alberta, separatism. It's an old idea built on grievances with Ottawa, and now some Albertans want to take it a step further, not just leave Canada, but join forces with the U.S.
Hey, buddy.
From his ranch in Alberta's foothills,
We're not separating from Canada. Canada separated from us.
lawyer Jeff Rath is one of the loudest voices of Alberta's separatism.
Being overrated from people from Ontario and Quebec that basically govern for their own benefit and treat us like a colony. What I'd like to see Canada become our 51st state.
And a group in Alberta is apparently on board.
This is Rath on Fox News in March.
Because
One thinks the U.S. will treat Alberta better than Canada does.
it's in their interest to have as much oil and gas coming out of Alberta as
Right, but
possible.
but you think you'd maintain your independence
Of course we would.
within the United States?
No, outside of the United States, it's an independent country.
Oh, so you're not talking? I'm just.
No, you're still stuck on why do you want to join the U.S.? I told you we're not necessarily joining the United States.
Okay.
So,
Right, you're going to talk to the Trump administration? Is that?
well, we are, and meetings are in the process of being scheduled.
He claims to have thousands of supporters. A recent poll found 30% of Albertans would vote to leave the Federation if the Liberals win the election. And 42% of Conservative backers say they'd want to join the U.S.
The whole 51st state debate has introduced a whole other element to this Alberta secession discussion.
Alberta's premier says no way.
I love Canada, and I want Canada to work.
But she is under intense pressure from those within her own party.
Danielle Smith has surrounded herself with people who have been publicly writing and speaking in
Richard, bringing you Africa Stories on France 24.
Thanks for joining us. See you again. Take care.
Liberté, égalité, actualité.
Hello and a warm welcome if you're just joining us. You're watching Daybreak here on France 24. These are our top stories. The world's worst humanitarian crisis, a country in the midst of famine where 30 million people have been forced to flee their homes. Tens of thousands have been killed. Sudan marks 2 years since a brutal civil war broke out with no end to the violence in sight. Russia says Ukrainian missiles hit an apartment building in Kursk, killing one person. No reply from Kyiv. Both sides deny targeting civilian sites. And Hungary officially outlaws any public event that has anything to do with the LGBTQ+ community and allows its authorities use facial recognition tools to identify anyone taking part in prohibited events. More than 300 people were killed in just 2 days.
Right, yeah, Thursday at 8, ABC TV.
Today, bidding for votes, both Anthony Albanese and Peter Dutton rebuffed concerns their housing policies will fuel the ongoing crisis. A woman killed in a late-night drive-by shooting in Sydney. Hundreds killed in an attack on one of Sudan's largest refugee camps has forced tens of thousands of people to flee. And Xi Jinping tours Southeast Asia to try to capitalise on Donald Trump's tariffs. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Melissa McKay. Questions around the major parties' housing policies are again dominating the election campaign. The opposition leader has today visited a housing development at Bacchus Marsh in Melbourne's outer west, but wouldn't be drawn on whether he agreed with his housing minister that wages should grow faster than house prices. Reporter Tom Crowley is travelling with Peter Dutton.
A chilly, foggy morning has given way to a warm and sunny day here on the outskirts of Melbourne, and Peter Dutton feeling the heat for a second day in a row with a press conference focused all about housing and what he wants to happen to house prices. Yesterday we heard him say he did want them to increase steadily over time so that people could have a nest egg. But Michael Sukkar, his shadow housing spokesperson who stood alongside him today, told Radio National Breakfast this morning he wanted them to grow by less than wages. So less than wages, but still enough to increase in value. That leaves a pretty narrow envelope when the press pack asked.
Hello and very good morning to you. This is Sky News at 5 a.m. here in the UK. These are your latest headlines. Birmingham's bin strikes are set to go on as unions rubbish the city council's offer as totally inadequate. Keeping the home fires burning, coal to keep Scunthorpe's steel plant open is secured, but the government hasn't said when it will arrive. Donald Trump suggests homegrown criminals could be deported as he welcomes El Salvador's president to the White House.
They say that we imprisoned thousands. I like to say that we actually liberated millions. So, that's very good. Who gave him that line? You think I can use that?
Shepard has cleared the tower.
And an all-female crew successfully launched into space on a Blue Origin rocket for an 11-minute trip.
1, 2, 3, take us space! Woo!
Singer Katy Perry was among the star-studded lineup to reach the boundary of space.
You never know how much love is inside of you, like how much love you have to give, and how loved you are until the day you launch.
Hello, very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us here on with Sky News. Any hopes of an end to the long-running strike by bin workers in Birmingham have been dashed after union members overwhelmingly rejected the City Council's offer in a fresh ballot. The union Unite says the Council's latest proposal is totally inadequate and doesn't address potential pay cuts for 200 drivers. The strike has now entered its 6th week, and with thousands of tons of rubbish yet to be collected and fears of a public health emergency, the government has called in the army to help. Our people and politics correspondent Nick Martin reports from Birmingham.
This is Asia Now.
It's 12 p.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong, 9:30 New Delhi, and 11 o'clock in Jakarta. I'm Rani Samtani. At this hour, China and Vietnam signed dozens of deals as Chinese President Xi Jinping visits Hanoi. Beijing is looking to shore up trade ties with ASEAN amid tariff showdown with Washington. Donald Trump signals more tariffs on semiconductor chips and pharmaceutical products, but temporary reprieve for car makers could be on the way, with a potential pause on levies for auto parts. And crowds gather in Malaysia for the state funeral of former Prime Minister Abdullah Ahmad Badawi. He died yesterday at the age of 85. Chinese President Xi Jinping is calling for stronger trade and supply chain ties with Vietnam as part of his ongoing tour of Southeast Asia. Mr. Xi is in Hanoi, where he has attended a wreath-laying ceremony with Vietnamese officials. He also met Vietnam's top leader To Lam yesterday. The two nations signed dozens of cooperation agreements, including deals on rail links and enhancing supply chains, both looking to bolster economic ties amid global trade tensions. China is facing steep U.S. tariffs with 145% duties on...
What's it all me? Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning, it's 7 o'clock, and Ed Miliband encouraged Chinese investment in key critical infrastructure.
Well, as the government scrambles to save Scunthorpe Steel, a fresh spotlight is cast on Beijing involvement in the UK economy.
Yeah, it's a very, very clearly
Too long.
That the United Kingdom stands committed to deepen and strengthen our partnership.
But will China now retaliate and threaten British jobs?
The Birmingham bin crisis could be coming to a street near you, it appears. The Unite Union has snubbed Angela Rayner's pay offer as they warn there could be similar bin strikes right across the country.
And pharmacies are folding. 5 were lost each week last year in England as a lack of funding has left them fighting to survive.
In a very spiritual and very intense, emotional reconnection, I suppose, these environments. Not it.
So there you have the Princess of Wales celebrating her connection to nature on a trip to the Lake District with the Scouts. She hails the balance and peace of the great outdoors. What's your experience?
Don't know if any other pop stars have been to space, but I just wanted to honor my fellow astronauts and just, hold the space in space.
A giant leap for womankind? Well, as star-studded all-female crew returns from a brief visit to space, we're asking, should the super-rich be going into space?
How many hit records did Neil Armstrong have? And in sport, Aston Villa need to overtake...
2 minutes past the hour of 7 o'clock. A very good morning to you on this Tuesday morning. I'm Eamon Holmes.
I'm Miriam Cates, and you're watching GB News Breakfast.
Africa News. The news. Gabonese expressed themselves following the provisional results indicating that Brice Oligui Nguema, the military junta who removed the long-time President Ali Bongo in a coup in 2023, has emerged victorious in Gabon's presidential elections, securing an impressive 90.35% of the votes.
Alors, en ce qui concerne les jeunes,
so as far as young people are concerned, we would like to see jobs for young people who are currently unemployed, especially the graduates who are unable to secure jobs. Algeria has instructed 12 French officials to leave the country within 48 hours, as stated by the French Foreign Minister on Monday. This action is reportedly related to the arrest of 3 Algerian nationals in France. A diplomatic source revealed that among those asked to depart are members of the French Interior Ministry. This incident follows the indictment of 3 Algerians, including consular officials, by French prosecutors on Friday, who are suspected of participating in the abduction of Algerian influencer Amir Boukos in a Paris suburb in April 2024. Not in their relationship.
The African Union has designated a new mediator in the conflict resolution process in Eastern DRC. Faure Gnassingbé, president of Togo, was announced as new mediator on Sunday. He will replace the Angolan president João Lourenço, who stepped down from the role last month. Mediation has been a challenging task in the conflict in Eastern DRC that opposes Congolese armed forces and the Rwandan-backed rebel group M23. Through Angola's mediation, Kinshasa agreed to direct talks with the rebel group, but talks scheduled to take place in Rwanda in mid-March failed when the M23 pulled out at the last minute. In parallel to African Union mediation, Qatar has launched its own negotiation process between the two warring parties. At a surprise meeting in Doha in March, the Congolese and Rwandan presidents engaged in direct discussions for the first time since the M23 took over the cities of Goma and Bukavu in Eastern DRC earlier this year.
People using wheelchairs for mobility are a common sight on the streets of Mekele, capital of Tigray state. Many were injured during a war in the region nearly 3 years ago. Many are not able to get the care they need to alleviate their pain.
We have many disabled people in Tigray without they cannot live without support. So we expect for these people, for these elders and people with chronic disease and disabled, for advocacy and support in livelihoods and immediate food support or emergency food support in medicine. One of the critical is regarding the medicine and other issues. So it is very difficult in Tigray.
This 41-year-old ex-combatant has metal shrapnel in his body that is yet to be removed more than 2 years after the fighting ended. My eye is leaking fluid and shrapnel remains lodged in my knee. The bullet is still in my head, and I have not received any specialized treatment. I am unable to feed my wife and child, and I have nothing to eat. Here I am, living in this dilapidated tin house. The Mekele Auto Physiotherapy Center, with support from the Red Cross, is trying to fill the gap. The group damages that have little or no infrastructure to accommodate them. Many survive by begging.
Thank you very much for giving time to Amir Shackle 5858. I am Amir Shackle. Have a good life. Bye-bye.